So now we'll move into some of the other techniques that were not part of our lessons, but you might find useful in doing your project. Uh, I mentioned truth maintenance, and a number of you contacted me saying that you'd like to do something like that in your project. So I'll do that one first here. Um, and actually, I say truth maintenance because it's really what do you do when you have a dependency among several fields? In other words, the value of one field influences what would be chosen. Uh, Say you have a pick list in another field. In other words, it limits the pick list. Um, there are several techniques actually to do that, and they aren't necessarily all truth maintenance. Some are just a different way of accumulating what would be data, have a different representation basically for multiple data items at one time. But there is a technique called truth maintenance that if you really do want to have separate fields for each of those dependent pieces of data, you could do that. So I'm going to open this file right here that says S03-E01 truth maintenance among dependent fields. And again, we have three examples in here, and they're not all truth maintenance, just the last one. So we've got a situation where we have an automobile, classic case, and automobiles have a make, like Ford or Chevy or uh, Cadillac or something like that, and then they have a model, and then there are model years. Sometimes they'll be called production years. I think I just called it uh, valid years or something like that. Um, Available years. That's what I called it in my example here. Now this is a little bit different than what we've seen before in tutorials where I basically stepped you through a process. Okay, this is actually what I would call a working tutorial. It's both the system itself and an explanation of how it's working are together in each one of these separate ones. And again, the last one I'll do here is really the one that's called truth maintenance. But I want to show you other ways you can actually um, handle this through what I would call the accumulation of an alias that represents the three values in a unique pattern. So we have a bunch of tables here, and the main ones here, main one is these subject tables for the automobile. And I actually built two subject tables, one that where I'm doing for the alias situation, and that's what these two are right here. And then another one for the truth maintenance situation, which will be the one I do here. Okay. Um, for these, what we'll have is we'll have a make category that is a category for another category table called make model, and that's a category for another category table called make model and available year. So we basically have a three levels of categories. We have a category with a subcategory, and that has a subcategory, make model and year. And then I have forms to take care of this, and I'll explain those as we go through it. But so the first one I'm going to do is what I call select from all possible alias values. If you've ever gone to Walmart and used one of their little computers that are on the display stand, and you want to go up and say look for an oil filter for a certain make, model, and year of the car, what they do is they basically have all combinations together. Just to show you, in this particular example, if I go to available year, which is where I really accumulate all the make, models, and years together, okay, I have 6,414 combinations of different makes, models, and years. And that was only through 2010, I think. So for the last 10 years, I haven't really accumulated any more in here. So we are literally at 8,000 9,000 models probably by now. That's a lot to page through if you had to do that. But let's do it like Walmart does it. Okay, if I go in here right now and open up a form, now what I'm going to show you is that I've got these. This is just a snip of the database relationship model for this particular one that I'm doing, this possible alias values. So I'm going to take the make, and again, it's in a category relationship with a model category, and that's in a relationship with an available year category. And then finally, the primary key value of this field, which represents each unique combination of make, models, and years, will be the thing that we'll store out here on an automobile. So we basically get a value that represents three of these together. All right. So now let's go to the prototype itself. So that was, again, I did this on each one. You got to see where I show you the relationship path and a little bit of a description about what's happening. But then when I get into the prototype, I actually give you a little bit more description. So what we're going to do here is we have a pick list where all combinations of make, model, and years that were captured in the relationships are available to us. I'm just going to put in some junk for the VIN. All right. And I didn't worry about making this capital or anything like that. But now make, model, and year, and I hit the drop down, and they're all in there. All right, now you're only seeing 25 at a time, but if I go over here to the scroll bar over here, you'll see it. It goes on and on, and in fact, I pulled all the way down, and it only gets some at a time. Again, over 6,000. What is it? It's over 6,400 of these right now. And that would be a lot to page through, wouldn't it, to find that? By the way, there's a lookup form too, and I can add new ones in here as I go along. Now, keep in mind, we do have the ability to complete strings. So, say it's a Ford. Okay, I could start typing F. Well, now give me a Ferrari. O, now it's a Foos. R, now I'm in the Fords. Okay, but Ford even has a lot of cars, a lot of models, and then a lot of years for the models. So that gets me close, but not really as close as I probably want to be. Let's say I know it's a Ford Bronco. Well, then I could do FORD slash Bronco. I should close this down so you can see it better. Bronco. I'm surprised it didn't do that. Let me go back. I might have to go out of here to do this. Okay. FORD. Yeah, okay, now it's doing it. Bronco. Boy, that's interesting. I thought it would keep completing it. Did it get me in the ballpark at least? Did I spell that wrong? Let's see. Let's go back to Ford. Oh, you know why? It's probably case sensitive. I didn't think of that. No. It brought me back Ford before. Let's do Ford. In the wrong place. Sorry about that. Ford. Now I hit the drop down. I saw Broncos in there. Oh, you know why? I have it space slash space. You have to be literal here. That's why it wasn't working. So if I came back here, I'd have to go Ford space. I probably shouldn't have put those spaces. Would people know to do that? I doubt it. They probably want the whole thing. Would they know to put a slash in there? They may not know that either. This is why I wouldn't do it this way. Okay, let's see. There, I got Bronco, and I got the first year that there was a Bronco. So at least I got the Broncos together now. And there's a Bronco too. Oh boy, that could cause a nightmare, right? So yeah, that works. If you're lazy, that's good enough. But you're not helping your end user very much by doing something like that. So I'm gonna get out of that and close it down. Uh, Actually, I'm going to go to design view so you can see that. Let me go to the prototype here, and I'll show you the alias that I used to create that. So if I go to the row source for that combo box and I look it up, you'll see it's a little bit complicated. It's got the make, the model, in the model year, available year, and you can see that there's those relationships, and it's an inner relationship, and that's okay because when I have a make, model, and year, I have all three of those typically. All right. Now I even put something in here to check that to make sure that was true. Okay. So I've got, again, I'm going to store the primary key of this table, the last table. That's what that combo box is going to equate to. That's the value it will hold when it's done. But it's going to show this, which is pretty complicated, but it's a big string that brings back the category name from that table plus the concatenated with the category name from this table, concatenated with the category name from that table. That's all together. If I looked at that in my builder, you'd see it look like this. Okay, it's the three categories from each one of those being concatenated together with a forward slash space between them. All right. So that's okay. That's how I built the thing. Then how I sorted it, I actually sorted it by make the category from make, the category for model, and the category for the available year. But you'll see here before I did that even, I also did an ascending where I sorted it based on the available year. Okay, I look, actually, it says, if you read this, it says the available year, the display order is null. Okay, and give it a 999. Okay, there are some times that these lists come back and you will have a make and a model, but no year yet. And I didn't want them to even appear, but unfortunately, maybe I'm getting this list from somebody else. So what I did is all those that I didn't actually have a year for it, or I'm sorry, if the display order for it was null, I made it 999. Let's see, if TLK is null. Okay, yeah, if the display order is null, well, they are all null. Why did it come up 999? Oh, because they may not be null. I may decided to put I actually put a display order on them. So I actually saw this somewhere, and I don't know why I actually put this in here, other than I thought, well, that is another way to keep them from, if they were had some value, some display years where the display, I'm sorry, some available years where the display order was null and some weren't. It gave me a chance to separate the ones that are null and put them at the bottom from the ones that I actually wanted to have displayed at the very top of it. That's what it was. You could decide that there's certain models you want to have displayed first, and then all the rest of them are displayed after it. So it would make those all 999, so they would appear at the end of the list, and then it would sort them by category name and all that. So anyway, I probably wouldn't use this, tell you the truth. I don't even know why I did that. It's been so long since I did it. I saw it somewhere, and for some reason it made me think that it's a good thing to do. But for this particular example, I don't think it'll ever fire, so I don't even know why I did that. It probably will come to me if I think about it a little bit more. But anyway, I just needed to sort basically by the make, model, and year, because I do believe they're always there, and that's the way you want to do it. I do know though that sometimes the year isn't necessarily a four-digit year. They sometimes have a summer and a winter version of the automobile, or an A and a B year or something like that. So that might be one of the reasons I did this. I'm not 100% sure, but because I thought maybe I could get the years coming up in a different order than I really wanted to. If I actually put a display order in between it, then they would come up in the right order, ascending, and then the other ones would come into play. So I think that might be the reason I did it. Anyway, but I didn't mean to get into a lot of that about why that if statement's there. Just to ignore it if you don't want to use it. The main thing is that you build the alias correct, so you can pick from it. But again, that is probably the way I would not do it. I would not do it like this. It's a lazy way of doing it. If you had a very limited list of things, then I could see it. But if you have thousands like this is, that is just not a very good way to do it. So what's a better way? But I like this idea of us accumulating the aliases. Is there another way to do it? And it turns out there is. So I'm going to close the whole thing down because I've just been moving around a lot. Okay, and now I'm going to do this where I derive the alias with a wizard. Okay, now it's the same data model, exactly the same as the last one. And if I come over here and hit the drop down, I still got that, and it still performs like the other one did. I can start typing forward, blah, blah, blah. But if I want help building that, if I actually want to go through it step by step to build that, in other words, pick the make, pick the model, and then pick the available year, I can hit this little button here that opens up a wizard. So now I'm in the automobile wizard. Select an automobile make. I hit the drop down and I see only the makes of this. And again, I could even add a make to this by opening up the lookup form for it. But I've got those, and I can pick one. Now you might notice this next, it isn't active right now because I haven't picked anything here. I've actually got a macro that will run that will make this enabled if that is not null in here. If I actually pick something, I could cancel it right now and just stop it. Okay, it just basically closed anything that was open in that beside this form. So I'm going to open it up again, and this time I'm going to pick Ford. Again, I could have just typed F up there, FOR, and gotten there. All right. Now you see next is on. So I click next, and it's showing me that I've picked Ford as my make. Now it's going to ask me for my model, and they're all here. So I'm going to pick a Bronco. And again, the next turned on, and I'll go to the next one. So now I got a Ford Bronco, and now here are the available years for a Ford Bronco. And I can pick one of those, and the done now is activated. It wasn't on before. But I can say done, and it puts that in there for me. I'm going to wipe that out and do it again because I'm going to show you what this is actually helping me to do. All right. Yeah, I know. It's going to do that. I got to actually do away with it first. And let me just, again, put a VIN in there. All right. So I'm going to pick that make. I'm going to pick Ford again. Whoops. Too much. Ford, 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 Ford. There you are. Ford. And I'm going to pick a Bronco. And, oh, you know what? I didn't mean to pick a Ford. I could go back to the previous, and now there's Ford again, and I could pick, maybe I wanted a Hyundai. That's really different than a Ford. Go next, and you see that Bronco is wiped out now because it knows that wouldn't be right. So now it's requerying this, and I'm only seeing the Hyundais now. So I maybe do a Hyundai Elantra. I'll go to next. So I got a Hyundai Elantra. I got the available years. I pick one of them. I get done. Oh no! You know what? I picked the wrong model. Go back to the previous one. I'll pick Santa Fe. Go to the next one. Okay, now I got the years for the Santa Fe. I'll pick one of those. You know what? I didn't want a Hyundai. Well, I go back two more then. Go back to the Hyundai. I wanted a Jaguar. Boy, what a difference of cars. And I'll pick a Jaguar XK Coupe, and I'll go to the next, and I got that one like that. You know, and I don't, I don't know what I want. I'm going to cancel, so I can start over. All right, let's start over. All right, let's go back. I want to again. I could have typed F to get to the Fords. There we go, Ford, and see, I can't get to the next one, so it's forcing me to get a model. Okay, so until I do that, in fact, if I go back here right now, I got Ford in there now, but if I wiped it out like that, yeah, it shouldn't let me. Yeah, see, it wouldn't let me go on. I tried to go on and it wouldn't let me do it. Say, nope, you got to pick something first, basically. I'm forcing him to pick something. So it's either Chevrolet and Chevrolet. Yeah, obviously something was misnamed. I actually got this from off of one of the car tracking sites. So they actually had a problem there. So they had the Saturn, and I want to have Saturn View Hybrid. And what year did they come out? Not many. And again, I could add years to this really easy. I could just go in here and add another one, then blah, blah, blah. But anyway, when I'm done, and it puts it in there, and I'm ready to go. That didn't seem too hard, but you wouldn't believe how much was involved in making that happen. So I'm going to show you that right now. Let me get out of there, and I'm going to go to the design view so you can see this. Again, we've got the same data model, all right? So first thing is I've got this little button that launches the wizard, and I'm going to look at its property sheet. And you got an on click there. And if I open up its on click, you'll see that what it does is it opens up a form called FWZ. That's a wizard form called automobile underscore make. And it's going to open up a normal view, just like we opened uh, forms before. Okay. It basically opened up this form right here, this make form. Okay. That's it. All right. Now, in the make form, we've got this unbound combo box. It has a row source that brings up all the unique makes. Okay, so remember we have a lookup table that has all the make values. We're just going to bring that up in ascending order. No big deal on this one. Now, if I look at the cancel button, I open this up. It's going to do some things that you're not going to understand quite right away. All right. First off, it's going to clear a macro error. What we are going to do as we open these and then later on move off of them, we're not going to close them. We're going to just hide them in the background. All right. But at some point they will close. And sometimes when they close, they may get referred to yet by a macro and they're not there. Okay, so you'll get a macro error. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that if there's any macro errors that are generated from Windows being closed when it needs to be referenced or it's attempting to reference them, I clear those errors and we go on. You don't even see the error; it won't happen. Okay, at least while this macro runs. Okay, and then I'm going to close the windows that could be open. So make is open. All right, it's just going to close it. But you know what? The one for the model and the one for the year could also be open. So I'm going to close them all. Well, what if these two aren't open yet? It won't do it. It won't cause a problem. Well, actually, that's where you would get a macro error. But because I said clear macro error, it won't generate one. So in other words, I could close down a window that's not even open. It would normally generate an error, but we're going to say don't generate an error. Just go through it. Don't ignore any errors that come from macros. That's what that's doing. All right. So we'll close that down. And now we'll look at the next button. And if I look at next, you'll see that it says on click. And I'm going to look at the on click for that. And you'll see that if it's checking that combo box on the little wizard form, I named CBO make. And it's checking to see, is it null? And if it is null, it's going to say you must select an automobile from the list, and it's going to give me a warning. And then it's going to put me in that control. That's a lot like what we did when we filtered a report in A073. All right. Now, the truth is, because I'm actually controlling that next, that it doesn't even activate unless there is a value here, this message box probably won't ever even open. All right. But I put it in there just in case there was something I was missing as far as control goes, so that they couldn't really have a null value in there before they moved out of the window. Okay, but anyway, it just executes that, and if it were to execute true, then it would put that warning up, put it back in the control, and then stop the macro. But again, I don't think this will ever really execute. Okay, so when I hit that next one, it's going to do that. It's going to open up now it says open form make. Well, that's already open. That's when I did that from. But look down here where it says window mode. It says hidden. In other words, it doesn't really open the form. What it really does is it hides it. It's a weird way of doing it. I don't know why there isn't just a hide form command here, to do that. But basically you have to say that form that I've already got open, now hide it. It'll still be there. The value of that combo box will still be linked to whatever was picked, and we need that because we're going to use that later. Okay, but then I will open the form for model next. Now I haven't opened up the form for the year yet, and I won't until I hit the next after the model. But one of the other things I'm going to do is I'm going to requery on the control CBO model. Now that's the name of the combo box on the form FWZ Automobile Wizard underscore model. All right, I'm going to requery that because the value in that window is based on what was picked, what is based on the value that's in this combo box. So when it opens, I need to requery it so that it actually constrains the values in that dropdown to be the models that were for the make that I selected here. That make is still active in the background on that hidden window. I could still refer to that control. That is one of the cool things about Access, is that you basically could have a control that holds a value serve as a variable that is available when other forms open, and that's what we're pretty much doing here by doing it that way. So the one thing I forgot to show you though was on this box, there is an after update property. After update runs after the value is actually changed in the box. Okay, so in other words, if I had a value in there, say I came back to it from one of the other ones, there's a value in there, and I set it to null, then it's going to say disable that button that let me go on, and it probably, and I that might be when it actually runs that command saying you must pick a value. All right, before. Well, it won't activate that button though until it does have a value. So maybe it won't even do it there. But anyway, if is null, if it isn't null, which if they haven't set it back to null, then what we want to do then what we've actually done here is we actually have changed the value. So maybe it said Ford. I came back to it. I didn't wipe it out, but I changed it to Saturn. Okay. Well, what if I had picked values in the subsequent windows of that wizard in the make in the I'm sorry, in the model in the available year? Well, those aren't true anymore, right? So what I'm doing there is I'm going to set the value of the next button to be yes. This means that there's a new value in here. I'm going to allow them to go on, and I'm going to close down the model window that I'm in now. Is that right? No, let me think here. Close window form. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm setting it to. Oh yeah, that's right. I picked a new value for make. So if the model in year had a value, I don't want those anymore. And the easiest way to get rid of them is close down those windows. Don't forget, when I hit that next button, it's going to open this one again anyway. So this is all happening. What I've done is I've just changed the value in that combo box. And what it's doing, it's saying make the next available, close the model window, close the year window. They click that next. Now, is there a possibility they could click that next before that window actually closed? Turns out no. Turns out in this case, the entire macro will run before that is truly enabled anyway. All right. I was concerned about that when I first did this. I was closing Windows first and then doing this, and I kept getting a really weird error message. And then when I switched it around, it worked. But you know what? I've never been able to just have that enabled and these still open. But even if it was, it would attempt to reopen them. So I think it would close them down anyway. But anyway, this is what that's doing for me. It's basically resetting everything downstream from it. All right, so now I'm going to close that down. And believe it or not, that's the easy one. All right, let's go to the harder ones now. I'm going to go to model now. So we've got the make in here, let's say. Now I'm going to model. Now this one's going to pop up. Now you see, remember where it actually showed me what make was? There is a function here called DLOOKUP. It's a very famous function. It's like a VLOOKUP or an HLOOKUP in Excel a little bit, but it means database lookup. And I'm going to go out here so you can see the actual expression that's in that box. It's right here as the control source. I'm going to open it up so you can see it. And it says DLOOKUP. And what that's going to do is it's going to go into the lookup table make on the field category. All right. Basically, this is just saying use the category field for make. And this means use the table make. I don't know why you had to say that too when you said that here. I think because this would actually let you say just txt star dash category, and then you have to say the name of the table. Now you might notice right away these are in strings. Make sure you double quote these, okay? Because it's actually looking for a variable, and we want to say the literal name. All right, and then this last parameter here is the condition. So we're looking for where the make auto identifier number, okay, our primary key in that table is equal to what the Automobile Wizard make window. Remember, it's still open in hidden form, okay? And we're going to refer to the CBO make, okay? It's dropped down. Find out what its value is. We're going to use that as the criteria. We're going to look for the record that has that primary key value in the make table, and we're going to return whatever is in the category field. So basically, the name of the make of the car. All right, and that's what is stored up here. This is a way. This is how you bring back a single data value from an object in your database, from either a table object or a query object. And if you want no more information about the DLOOKUP function, it's very powerful, but it can also be very time consuming sometimes. Here we're using 6,000 records. Well, on the make table, there's not that many. There's maybe 100 or so. So it didn't take too long for it to find that. If you want to find out more about DLOOKUP, I would direct you to go out and Google it. Okay, and always remember it's an expression, so you have to preface it all with an equal sign to indicate that you're typing in an expression. So on this one, you got to cancel, just like we did on the other one. And it's pretty much the same thing. If you go in here, what it's doing is it's clearing the macro errors because you get several of them, and it turns out on this one. And it will basically close all the wizard forms. In other words, we're canceling out, we're just going back. All right. On Let's go here and look at this. Okay, so for the drop down on this one, the row source is going to be made of the make and the model, and I'm going to have the category from the model shown here. Okay, and it is going to be limited by the record identifier number in the make table, and based on the criteria of you having a criteria that it is equal to whatever that CBO make is in the hidden form that's still open, right? Just like the D lookup, it's almost the same logic as doing the D lookup. We're basically bringing back, and that it found a single make value. Here it's going to come up back with all the categories of the make model that exists for that make value. That's cool, isn't it? So let's close that down. And again, it's going to have an after update also. And on this one, it's going to check, is the model null? Did I set that back? And if it is, it's going to set its value to be enabled and let you go on right away. Because the next one's the last one. This one's the hard one because it's in the middle of it, kind of. All right. And then I look at the next button. And by the way, you might see that I made their default to look like it was. The default is to not have it enabled. In other words, disabled. Not the enabled property for this is off. In the other words, okay. Do I have that here somewhere? Can I show you enabled? Actually, I think it just changes the view of it. Isn't that right? No, no, here it is. Enabled, no. Okay. So what I'll do is I programmingly enabled it when this one's after update property realized that this was not null anymore. Then I set the value of that property to be yes, and this turns on then. Okay, but on click, and of course that would only happen if it was enabled that it could click on it. I test to see is it null. Again, I do this, and again, I don't think this would ever even run, but I do that just to make sure that it wasn't null and somehow that button came on. They're moving on, so I would just stop that basically and send them back. Otherwise, now I open the wizard form and I hide it. So I've got the make form, it's already hidden. Now I'm hiding the model and I'm opening up the year. Okay, and I should have put available here. Should name that available year, but I called it year and that's fine. We'll just call it year, okay? And then I requery the CBO year, which is the combo box on this form, so that its row source property will run correctly. Oh, and I remember the reason I do that is because, again, I may have changed on the other one. Now I'm moving back and I need to requery it so it's got the new one. It's got the new criteria based on the combo box of whatever I'm moving from. I know this is not easy, all right? It's a lot to keep track of, but I think after you've done it once or twice, it's going to get really easy. You'll understand very well. And then there's the previous, which would move me back to the make one. And so what I do here then is I close down the model and I move back to the make. Well, why would I do that? Why when when I say close it down, I make it the model hidden, but I reactivate the make by doing another. And this is in an open form. You do a select object. Select object. When an object is hidden, all you have to do is do a select object, and it basically reopens it. Okay, so it's weird. You would think there would be a way to hide the object, like hide object. No, you have to open the object, and this is a report. You have to do it as a report like that. But I don't know why anybody would hide a report. Actually, there is a good reason. I may as well say that right now. When do you hide things besides something like this, where you're programmatically building forms that are relying on each other? When else would you want to hide things? Well, it turns out when you open and close forms and reports a lot, in Access, after a while, it will start bogging down. All right. Now, I've never, these days, I do it all day long and I never see it bog down. But if that ever were to happen to you, another thing you could do is instead of closing a form, is just hide it in the background. Keep it hidden. Then, when you close your application, just have your macro that closes your app, close everything. All right. And then it will close that down. So I do that sometimes if I know a form's going to be opening and closing a lot. Instead of actually really closing it, I may just keep it hidden and then use a select object to unhide it. Um, but again, I haven't done that in many years. I usually just open and close them. But this is powerful again when I do need to have one open in the background because I'm referring to one of its controls, the value of one of its controls, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So that's how the previous works then too. So now we got that, and again, we're this is allowing us not only to have values, but as I go back and I change things, then it will close this one down and close the next one down, and that's what happened here on this next one. That if they had changed the value on the after update, that it's going to actually close down the other ones. Oh, I didn't show you the after update. The after update on this one, if I actually did update that value to be something else, then it should have closed down. How did that work again? Somewhere it closes down that one. I can't remember how that's done now. Anyway, but was that done on here? I forget where that was done before. Maybe I didn't need to. Oh, that's right. I can't move on to the next until they would actually have to change something here. The only time I have to change close them both down is on the first one. I think that's what's going on here. Boy, I should have checked that before I did this. Let me see. That one just sets the value if it's enabled to yes, whereas the one before it, that was on the after update, right? The one before it, when I did this one's after update, yeah, it actually closed down those windows. I wonder why I didn't have to close the year window on that. If I went back, oh, because it's going to reopen it anyway when I do the other one, when I hit the next value. That's why. All right. It wouldn't need to do that though if it didn't change, because if it didn't change, it's not going to uh, it's not going to disable that. It's going to keep it enabled, so it would just go back to whatever it had before. So there was no need to close that one down. It's either going to be linked or it's going to be closed by the nature of clicking the next one. That's why. All right. So, like I said, a lot to balance here. I do this a lot and I still don't always remember how to do this because again, I don't use this one very often either. It's the next one I use the most. So anyway, that's how that works. And by the way, when I finally did get to the last one, which is the year, okay, I'll show you. And again, we got two D lookups now. It's the same one as the other one on this because remember, those two windows are open. And now I'm going to use the make window to figure out what the lookup is for the make that I picked before. So I'll know those by the two controls that are open on the two forms. All right, and now I look at this one and I look at its select, and you'll see the make and the model together, the make model and the make model year together, available year, and I use that now to determine, because remember, this one's primary key represents both the make and the model. The other one was just the make. This one represents the make and model combination, and this one represents the make, model, and year combination. All right, and it's a little bit different than what most people would think, okay? But that is exactly what's happening. We're accumulating the alias as we go along. And so this one only needs to look at the model because it's got the make accounted for here. All right, and I'm going to close that down. And on its after update, it's basically going again, check to see and make sure it's not null, and it's going to enable that button to go on and actually put that value out there. That's the done button. All right. It's cancel, closes down all the windows, I believe, all the wizard windows. So it's the same one that we had on the other ones. And then the previous button its on click value. We'll open up the form wizard year in hidden mode, and then select the object model because it's taking me back, right? So I'm hiding what I have, and I'm going back to the one previous to it, where I can select the model. So, and again, if I don't change the model, I just move back. Okay, this is still there. I haven't closed it down, so it just reopens with what I picked in it before. So it's a way to navigate back and forth in a smart manner. And then again, like I said, when I'm finally done, uh, the done button just checks to see did the year get picked, uh, and if not, it would give me that message. But again, I don't think that would ever run. I open the wizard form in hidden view. I select the original subject form. Okay, it was called FRM automobile, and I said I put alias wizard in parentheses just so you know that I've got two automobile forms because this is the one I used for this particular example. It's structured a little bit differently on the other one, and then this only had the one field that's going to get the value that represents all three, where the other ones got three fields, that one for each one of those, the make, model, and year. And then I'm going to set the value to the CBO for make, model, year on that form, on that subject form, to be whatever the value is on that CBO year. Because remember, it doesn't just represent the year, it represents the make, model, and year, just like on the last example, all right? And then I'll close down the wizard. So there it is. There's all the automation that needs to happen to make that wizard work. Wow, that was something, huh? And let's just remember what we just did here. Let's go back. And I'm going to go to open in this view. I'm going to go back to prototyping. You can see I can come over here and hit the wizard. And again, if I cancel, it goes out. I open it up. I pick one and go on to the next. But you see, I can't hit that next one until I actually pick one. And if I pick an Escalade, and oh, I didn't want a Cadillac, I go back. When I did that now, it closed down those other two windows because it wants to put it back in its initial state. Thinking no, it didn't. It didn't. It won't do that actually until I actually pick another one. If I came back here right now and hit next right now, because it has a value in there. I haven't changed it. This still knows what I picked last time. It's still true, okay? I could change it if I want to, but as soon as I pick this, now just wipe that out, okay? Just close those windows. And now when I pick the new one and moved on, this comes up with a state now that it's looking for stuff that belongs to a Dodge. All right, and then I go on and I pick the year. Colt only had 1 year that year, huh? That's weird. I know they have Colts a lot more than just 1 year. And then go back and go back two and pick another one. And now it's going to wipe those out again if I change it. Go on, pick the Monaco, go to the next one, pick its year, 2000. If I go back, I go forward. It still has this one as I picked. It's smart enough to know that. If I change one of these, it's going to change both. I should have picked one where I could pick the second one. Da, 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 da. And again, I go back all the way, I go through all the way, I go back one, go through, go back, change this one, and now that will be asking me again because I changed it, right? Really nice. We made this really nice for the end user. They could be here all day messing around, finally say that's the one I want, and it goes, all right? Now, a purist would say this violates referential integrity because I got multiple values on one field. The truth is we don't. Okay? The truth is we have just one value that happens to represent right now Jaguar XF 2009. All right, it's just one value in there. It's the primary key of a table that accumulated basically an identity for all these three together. And so it doesn't really violate referential integrity. This is acceptable. If you wanted to do it this way, that's fine. But if you're a true purist and you say, no, really make ought to be a field and model ought to be a field and available year ought to be a field, yeah, then you got some work to do. All right, to make it truly, truly normalized. All right. First off, why would you want to do that? Well, you might have a lot of records in here and you want to find all the ones that are Fords. And so you want to go in and you want to group on Fords or you want to just filter on Fords, okay? That would be kind of it wouldn't be difficult to do here. You could do it, okay? You could do it on just that one, but it would take an interesting query to do that, okay? Harder would be if you want, to isolate like the models or the year, because they may not be in a grouped order, and then might have to do a lot of you'd have to have indexing basically in order to make it a fast query. But again, you could. Okay, in this day and age, search and sorting are getting to be very easy to do in databases. So you could leave it at that and just go on. But what if you really wanted to have three fields? Okay, we wanted to do, in other words, this. Okay, I want to have a make, a model, and a year. Now, in this one, we've got the same relationship path of make, model, year, and then the automobile receives that. Okay, but if you look at this, the make ends up in this one, the model ends up in this one, the year ends up in this one. Okay. Now, yeah, truthfully, that still is a value that is unique for that. That would be a value that's unique for this pair, and that's a value that's unique just for each record in there. All right. But it is a way for us to isolate the make, the model, and the year. So, I'll show you how we do that. So let's go over and again, I could pick Chrysler. And by the way, I have a description on here that I didn't have on the other ones. You could have that if you want to, or you could get rid of it. PT Cruiser, available year, only one there. Okay. Now, that's great, but what happens if I go back and I change Chrysler here? Okay, as soon as I hit that drop down, it says selecting a new make will cause the model and year to be reset because they won't be true anymore. This is what we call truth maintenance. All right, if they're not true anymore, I need to get rid of them. So I say, okay, now I could opt, oh, let's leave it, okay. But if I did go in here and I said Ford, see what happened and got rid of those. So let's say I do Ford Bronco and then I do a year, and now those are the years for the Bronco. And I say, well, I wanted a Ford, but I wanted a Bronco too. Well, now it's going to say if I change this, select a new model, that'll cause the year to be reset. It won't cause the make to be reset because the make is still Ford. Okay, I'm not changing the make, but I do want to change the model. So now I'm going to go in here and maybe it's a Bronco SUV, two-wheel drive. Okay, like something like that. And now I hit that drop down and it's 89. Now, sometimes people ask me, well, what if I picked 89 for the original Bronco and it's still an 89? That was right. Well, so they have to pick it again. Yippee, What I'm saying here, though, is if you change that model, I have no way of knowing really that that year is really what you intended. Okay, I make this super intelligent and recommend it. Oh, you said 1989 last one. Do you still want that one? Yeah, maybe. That's I think going overboard. What I want to do is I want to make sure that this forward process is always smart. So I want to be able to have this stuff that says if I do something different, that bam, it's going to be okay. And of course, on the available year, I could change that all I want because it's going to be constrained to be that, right? And I give a little bit about what's going on here, since the requeries are necessary to update the dependent combo box PICs. Truth maintenance of this type can only be done in a single record form or in a header footer of a continuous form. Also, since the record must be saved between each validation, we can only make the root field of the hierarchy make identifier a required field. So what I'm saying there is every time I do something here. I had actually requery these to make sure that the truth among them was being maintained. And because of that, the only one I can make required was make. All right. Let me delete those. Okay. I just escaped because I never saved this record. Okay. But if I go in here right now, okay, what if I go model first? All right. Well, what did that just do? Yeah, it just gave me the Sedonas. Nothing here. Uh, Even though it's let me do this, it would not have let me save this because I never picked a make. In fact, I think that's how that would work right now. If I knock that out here and I try to go up here and save it now, yeah, you must select a make. Okay. But I don't think he had to select the other ones. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you have to have VIN. That's right. Okay, let me do that. Let's go to save that. See, it does let me save without a model and year. Those are not required. All right. And you know what? That's probably okay because sometimes gotta think about that. Could I make those required? You might. Well, let me read this again. Since requeries are necessary to update. Oh, because I got requery. That's right. The truth maintenance of this type can only be done in single record form. Or in a header or footer on a continuous form. Yeah, so I can only do this on a single record form because of the way the combo box need to requery. Also, since the record must be saved between each validation, we can only make the root field required. What I'm saying there is, as soon as I click that, it requeried these other ones just to make sure that they were still being true. Now, there wasn't any value in them, no problem, okay? If that had been, these had been required, when I did the requery, it would give me error messages. That's why I can't have these required fields. So there is one drawback to this, but you know what? It's a small price to pay for giving that kind of help. I like that myself. All right. So let's go inside and take a look. See, now I could go in here and hit save, and it'll actually save the whole record. I could do a new record, and it would take me to that. So anyway, I'm going to go in here and show you how that worked now. We go into the prototype, and I'm going to start with this one. By the way, those are just arrows. Those aren't buttons. That's just showing you got to do this one, then this one, then this one. I was trying to give them a visual clue that they really ought to go in that order. But I've got the make, and you know what? That was basically populated like the other one was. It's just the makes that we have. Okay, and I did this if on all of them where I checked that 999 status so that the ones that are, oh, I know why, because it shouldn't. This probably won't ever happen on the make. But again, I could have blank records. I think on. Is that true? If independence, then display or is null. If it is null, make it 999. Otherwise, uses. Oh, if there is a display order, use the display order. Otherwise, make it 999. Okay, it's right. No problem. And if that didn't work, then it would sort them ascending by category. That's how it works. Okay. So yeah, I forgot. Those kind of are exclusive of each other. This will put all the 999s at the back if there is no display order. In other words, zones that do have a display will come up first, and then it will go in and sort them on the category name, so that all the ones that were given 999, the ones that are it'll put them in alphabetical order, but these ones will still be in proper display order. Okay, that's what that's doing. I know. So it's weird. You do these things and you got, why did I do it that way? And then it's why that's why one of the reasons you should comment your macros as best as you can. In the early days I didn't do that very much, but now I do it habitually. I always put one of these comments in here like this. I drop it in here, and then I say what that's about, what I'm doing here and all that. So anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the CBO to be null, on model, and so this is an after update. In other words, I've updated the make. That means I'm going to wipe out the model in the year. Okay, I've actually changed the value that was selected on make, whether it's going from null to a value or it had a value and it's moving to another value. All right. I'm going to wipe it out. So I'm going to put null on my CBO model, which is the next combo box, and null on my CBO available year, which is the combo box after that. And I'm going to requery each one of those as I go along. And that's how you make that appear to be null. Okay, I want to save that. All right, but there was another. Remember when I did this first, it popped up a message saying if you change the value, it's going to wipe those out. So there it's called the on got focus. On got focus means that that box is activated. It's somehow the focus moved into that text box or into that combo box. I clicked into it. I could have reverse tabbed into it or tabbed from the VIN. If I tab from the VIN, and it's null, it won't do anything at all because nothing is updated yet. Okay, but it's just basically if it does have a value in there, then it would do it. And here's where that is, where I test to see is it null and is it not null. In other words, there was a value in it. Now if it was null, it wouldn't put this message on. It doesn't care. You just want to pick one then, all right? But if it's not null, if I had already picked Ford and I'm moving back in that box, it's going to say selecting a new make and model will cause a problem. That's all. Pretty simple, actually. Okay? And guess what? That's how these all kind of work. It's actually a lot simpler than the wizard. So again, I build a category that just brings back the model based on whatever make was picked, and that's what this is doing. It's constraining it. That field right there, and then it's got focus. It says it's going. If it's not null, and you're trying to change the value here, that's it's or you're if it's not null and you try to click in that field, it's going to warn you that if you try to change the value, it's going to wipe those out. If you do change the value, it's going to wipe that out. And then this is where it happens on the after update property. It actually does that where it resets the year. It doesn't have to reset the make, right? Because that's still true. But it's the year that may not be true. And that's what we're going to fix. And then finally, on that last one, the available year, you got a similar query where it's going to come up with the years. It'll be the category. It'll come up with the years, the available years for whatever model was picked. That's where this happens. Okay. And by the way, the subject form for this is called FRM Automobile Truth Maintenance. Okay, again, it is different than the other one because it's got actually two extra fields, one for the model and the year. Okay, where we just had, I'm sorry, make model, it's got the three fields for model and year, where the other one just had one field. They had the accumulation of the make, model, and year. So it's a different table. But you notice it does not have an after update or a got focus because there we don't care. They could change that all day long after they pick these two. All right, and there's nothing to change. And basically, that's where they're just setting the value of the field. But when you get done, then you've got a field that has the make value in it. You got the field that's got the model value in it, and you've got the field that has the year value in it. Uh, Somebody told me this is kind of neat because they said, there are actually have been several cars that had the model town and country. That turns out not to be copyright thing. So if you want to find all your town and countries, regardless of who made them, that would be a way that you can actually uh, write a query to filter that, or sort through them so you could see them all together. Anyway, pretty neat, huh? And that is how you do truth maintenance. So again, you've got three different ways to basically allow people to manage dependent fields on each other here. And then the last one is the truth maintenance one, where you actually have fields in the table that are dedicated to all the fields that are dependent on each other, where these ones just accumulate basically an alias that is representative of the three fields. Are there other ways to do this? Yeah, I think I know of at least two other ways to do this. All right. And I think I know of another way that you could do this. But This by far and away is the easiest. Okay, most students who want to do truth maintenance on their project will mimic what I did here, and I hope you can do it. I hope you, if you want to try it, you do. It takes a little while, okay, but not a long time, And you've got what I've done here as being an example how to do this. Now, in your project, if you decide to use this make, model, and year that I did, that's fine. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of points if you just do exactly what I did here and just change names and stuff like that, okay? But if you really make one from scratch, then we'll give you some points for doing that. So, anyway, that's the application, and it'll be out there on our Blackboard site. I'll send an email so you guys know where it's at. And we will move on to some other examples of things that are kind of neat. But I think of all the ones that all the examples I have to show, this is the one that students tend to use the most. So these extra examples I showed, this is the one that students tend to use the most, the truth maintenance one. That's why I'm trying to get it out there early. So thanks a lot.